Going into the weekend, the Cubs had the best record in the National League. They leave the weekend dropping 2 of 3 to the Detroit Tigers. We'll talk about that and more all today on Locked On Tigers.
You are Locked On Tigers, your daily Detroit Tigers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Tigers. I'm, of course, your host, Scott Bentley. Today is Monday, June 9th, 2025. Thank you so much for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off of your first purchase. A lot of people using Game Time to get down to the ballpark this weekend as the Tigers win a series against the Chicago Cubs, who, as I said in the cold open, started off the weekend with the best record in the National League. I think after this series, the Mets at least caught them. I don't know. I'm recording in the middle of games on Sunday, too, so we'll see how all that plays out. Regardless, a fantastic weekend for your Detroit Tigers, who do, in fact, still hold on to the best record in all of baseball. They win Friday 3-1. They lose Saturday 6-1. Then they win on Sunday with a 4-0 shutout. My first thought is just what a weekend, man. You had sellouts at Comerica in all three of these ball games, over 40,000 people in attendance for each game. I think it was well over 120,000, 125,000 for the weekend as a whole. And they went out there and beat the team that, as I said, going into the weekend had the best record in the National League. This was a very hyped up series because of that. The Friday night was on national, I guess you'd call it national TV. Do we even really have national TV anymore? Like when I was growing up, it was like, oh, like this game's, a big game. It's on national TV. It's like, well, these days that just means it's on some streaming service that's not your local streaming service. Like it was on Apple TV. Does that count? I think it probably does. But I don't know, just weird. Anyway, you had a nationally broadcasted game. We'll put it that way. On Friday, Skubal on the mound, Cubs come in hot and highly talked about, and you walk away with a win, and then you split one of the next two. The pitching was fantastic outside of a couple of players on Saturday that we'll talk about, but it was really, really impressive bullpen work and starting pitcher work most of the weekend. The offense wasn't stellar by any stretch, right? Like this wasn't some offensive performance over the weekend that, blew you away or made you, I don't know, think that the Tigers might have like the best offense in baseball or anything like that. But I do think, they did enough in the first two games to at least split. They didn't really do anything on Saturday, but they did enough on Friday to at least grab a win there with Skubal on the mound. Low bar, but they did it. Sunday, only 4 runs, but I actually think the offense on Sunday looked really solid. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. Speaking of Skubal, he proved that he is the best pitcher on the planet. I don't think it's particularly close. Like I think Skeens has an argument, but I also think that, maybe I'm just biased. Maybe I'm biased and whatnot, but if you're asking me to pick any one pitcher right now, not like build around or in the next 10 or 20 years or whatever, obviously that's going to be Skeens. But like, if you're picking one dude tomorrow, I have a hard time believing it's not Tarik Skubal. This was the perfect bounce back series. And I say bounce back, that almost seems like they split against a division rival. Like, yes, the White Sox are not good, but like they didn't get swept in a 4-game series. They split 2-2 and won one game 13-1. Like they have the best record in baseball. This was a fantastic kind of reassurance, I think, for some fans that maybe were overly reactionary to that White Sox series. Like, look, yes, splitting wasn't the ideal scenario. out of that, but like this team is still really, really effing good. And I think that is kind of the importance of like what a time to be alive. What went right this weekend? We're going to bring it back up. The starting pitching, Skubal and Flaherty both shine very brightly, much needed as well, given how much the bullpen was used over the last week, right? We talked about that a lot during the White Sox series. Like, not only did you lose, you also gassed the heck out of your bullpen. So it was nice to have, and you had a bullpen game on Saturday. So it was really important that both of them did well and went relatively deep into the game, and they both did that. Tarik Skubal, 7 2/3, just misses 8 innings of work, 8 hits, 1 earned run, no walks, 6 strikeouts. His ERA is now 2.16 on the season. He is becoming significantly more efficient than he already was over the last month. This is a dude that has consistently one of, if not the highest first pitch strike rate in baseball. And he never walked anybody, but it was, there were still some deeper counts or whatnot. He is just becoming even more efficient than he already was. This is now, it really seems like over the last 3-ish weeks that it almost feels like he hears any even remote criticism that he might possibly get from someone. And, like the super negative fans were like, oh, he doesn't go deep enough into ball games, whatever. It's like, okay, well now he has a Maddox and he's, around 8 innings in almost all of his last, 3 or 4 times out. He's just unbelievable. And the amount of pitches isn't changing. Right? It's not like Hinch is just, oh yeah, go throw 130 today. We don't care. He's throwing the same amount of pitches. So he had to figure out, okay, if I'm going to get pulled around, 95 to 105 every time out there, I got to figure out how to go deeper into ball games. And that is what he has done. He's the best starting pitcher alive. I think he has the best changeup in baseball. He can throw 103 at the 95 pitch mark when he wants to. He is absolutely incredible. And he's a Detroit Tiger. And that's awesome. Jack Flaherty was fantastic as well. I think this was the best outing of his season, truly. 6 innings, 2 hits, no earned runs, 3 walks, and a 9 strikeout performance. His ERA is now back down to 3.41. This is a guy that, like, people were freaking out. And again, this goes back to, like, you can't be overly reactionary in baseball conversation. Like, people were really worried about him 3 weeks into the season. And his ERA was a little high, right? It was in like the 4, even 4.5 range. But his last 3 weeks, 4 weeks, similar to Skubal, right? And Skubal's been great all year, but Flaherty's last 3 or 4 weeks, he's really seemed like he's turned a corner and been a lot better. This outing specifically, what made it so good is this was, I think, comfortably the best that he has tunneled his fastball, curveball, slider in one outing, right? Like, put it all together. He's had a good fastball, he's had a good slider, he's had a good curveball, but not all at once. Not only did he have that, but the tunneling of it was diabolical. Like, I don't know how anyone hits what he was offering on Sunday whatsoever. It's and the prime example of my point here when it comes to the tunneling of those 3 pitches, because usually you'd like, okay, I don't need 2 breaking balls and a fastball. I want an off speed of breaking ball and a fastball. But what really highlights how good he is at mixing and tunneling is the fastball belt high away. That is a pitch that very few, if anybody, can get away with on a consistent basis, right? You throw a low 90s, even usually for Flaherty's case, a low 90s fastball that's like pretty much belt high, right where the barrel wants it, right where the hitter wants it, but it's on the outside half of the plate. Guys aren't even swinging at it. And the reason why is because he's throwing the slider low and away, the curveball low and away, right? He's consistently throwing that. And so then when he just dumps a 91 mile an hour fastball in there, you assume that it's going to continue to be the breaking stuff to get you to chase low and outside. And instead, it's just a dot belt high, and you kick yourself and you get really frustrated because it's a super hittable pitch, but people just don't swing at it because of how he mixes it all together. So I was so impressed with this outing from him. He had 1 inning specifically where he just kind of lost all command. and control, but he was not only able to get out of that inning without giving up a run, he then adjusted and went, I think it was 2, maybe even 3 more innings after that. It was a lot more efficient. So this was a fantastic outing. I think this is a great step in the right direction. And thank goodness I don't have to read people on the internet talk about how like Jack Flaherty is terrible and he's awful and we're guaranteed to lose all of his starts like people were saying at the end of April. Even whatever. Again, reactionary. Let's let some players breathe a little bit here. Speaking of not being too reactionary, let's talk about Spencer Torkelson. We will do that right after this. Got to talk to y'all today about our friends over at Wonderful Pistachios. If you're looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious, crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats. They'll keep you feeling fuller longer. Personally, I love the no shells variety. It is the perfect grab and go snack for busy days when I'm snacking at my desk, on a road trip, or just need a quick protein boost. They're always my go-to. And if you love cracking open every shell for that satisfying crunch, well, the in-shell options are a classic favorite as well. So get snacking and get cracking. With the snack that packs a protein punch, visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Segment 2, Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in, as always, making us your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day, and we will, of course, be back tomorrow for an off-day episode. We will talk about kind of the big picture stuff in the organization like we like to do on off days, and then we'll obviously preview the series against the Orioles on Tuesday, starting on Tuesday. Offensively, Spencer Torkelson had a fantastic weekend. He had 2 hits and a home run on Friday, had 1 hit on a day in which not many people could say that on Saturday for Detroit, and then 2 hits and 2 big RBIs, a huge hit, almost was a home run, probably a homer in a few parks on Sunday. So a hit in every ball game, including 3 RBIs and a homer. It feels like every single time that Torkelson goes on even like a 5-game stretch where he's, not getting multiple hits every game or he has a couple of offers in a row. Like part of the fan base just freaks out and is like, oh my goodness, look, he's back to like his old ways. He's back to how he was. Like the fun is over. He's going to go right back to how he had been. And like, it hasn't happened. Like, you know what I mean? He's gone through stretches. It's an 162 game season. He's going to go through stretches. He's going to go through more bad stretches throughout the rest of the season. I hate to break it to you. But like, as I said earlier, right? Like just let it breathe a little bit. He has been really good this season. Really good. Maybe the Tigers' best hitter. He's been incredible in high leverage situations. His stats with RISP are absolutely phenomenal all year. And he was incredible this weekend against one of the best teams in baseball with really solid pitching and a really good bullpen. Let it breathe. Let's just see how it plays out. Okay? We don't all have to race to be like the first person that was like, oh yeah, like I said he was going to fall off, or the opposite too. Like I said he was going to break out. Let's just see what happens. He's been so good, and it's so fun. Give him a ton of credit for working through those ups and downs, continuing to make adjustments, because that's not to say that like he isn't making adjustments. He is. He is. He's constantly making adjustments, as most, if not all, major leaguers should be. And this season, for the first time in his career, I have some faith that those are going to last. If I'm wrong, we'll talk about that at some point this season as well. Javi Baez. The offense has fallen off a cliff. I'm not here to talk about his offense being really solid this weekend. We kind of, I don't know, dare I say, expected his offense to kind of fall off a cliff at some point. But he has been so good defensively, really everywhere. And it's just great to have him back at shortstop because, and that's, Trey Sweeney isn't terrible at short, but he's not Javi Baez either. And so to have Parker back and to have a defense that has Parker in center, Baez at short, and Riley in left had a great weekend defensively as well. Like this weekend, there was just really good team defense. Friday was otherworldly. I mentioned the Riley Greene play. You had Javi make a couple of crazy plays. You had Kerry Carpenter with like the robbed, I don't think it was going to be a home run, but like robbed extra bases and saved the ball game on Friday. You also had Kerry Carpenter with an absolute seed from right field to get, who was that? Ian Happ trying to score. So like this was a fantastic defensive outing. And I feel like we've been waiting to like say that on a consistent basis all year, but because not everybody's been healthy and we've kind of had to like patchwork our way through the season, it's just been about keeping your head above water. Now we can actually look around and go, okay, this defense might actually be pretty solid. Speaking of Kerry Carpenter, goes 3 for 4 on Sunday. The hamstring is clearly affecting him when he runs the bases. If you look at him run the bases, it looks like it's a light jog out there. So like clearly the hammy's affecting him, but he was still able to make 2 incredible defensive plays this weekend for a guy that, throughout his major league career has struggled defensively and has had a lot of question marks in that regard. So tip of the cap to him. Also want to point out Dylan Dingler on defense. Didn't have, I don't even know if he got on base this weekend, but has been so good offensively throughout the year. This weekend, I think you really saw again why he's been so valuable outside of the batter's box. Because the belief originally was, okay, Dingler will get you the offense and be okay defensively. Rogers will be really good defensively and will be okay, was the hope offensively. He's been very much below okay offensively so far. And the reason why Dingler's playing is not just because he's hitting, right? It's because he's been so good defensively. Legitimately one of the best defensive catchers in baseball. Has another caught stealing in a huge moment in this game. He's just been so good. And then the bullpen. Will Vest closes the door twice this week, and I think he only gets 1 save. Yeah, because Sunday was a 4-run game. So only gets the 1 save, but does end the game twice over the weekend. Has a 1.67 ERA on the season, and it is the middle of June. Tommy Kahnle pitches on Sunday. Has a 1.26 ERA on the season. It's the middle of June. Just absolutely fantastic stuff. What went wrong this weekend? The Tigers do drop a game, and it wasn't without some theatrics throughout the weekend, as well as just pure frustration, I think most of us felt on Saturday. We'll start with Cater Montero. Goes 5 2/3, 5 hits, 4 earned runs, 1 walk, 4 strikeouts, 1 earned run, 4 walks, 3 strikeouts. There we go. He now has a 4.3 ERA. Just really give up a lot of hard contact. And that was due to poor command. When he was hitting his spots, he got his strikes. You could really say this about anybody. When he was hitting his spots, he got, it was getting whiffs even. But he was missing. I try to emphasize this all the time. There's a big difference between missing in the zone and out of the zone. If you're missing your spots out of the zone, you're walking people, you're getting, deep into counts, etc. But you can still limit damage because it's one pitch, it's one ball. And if you attack the zone on the next pitch, you're whatever. If you're missing in the zone, you have a propensity to give up home runs or at least really hard contact, because then you're missing over the heart of the plate. He was doing both. He was missing out of the zone, in the zone. I mean, it was just kind of a mess command-wise. He was all over the place. This also wasn't the best matchup in the world, which is why I think that Hinch elected for an opener. Like the Cubs are a team that hit a lot of hard contact, but a lot of home runs. They have a lot of really good home run hitters. This is an incredible offense. And so Montero, a guy that isn't really a ground ball pitcher, has to hit his spots in order to get swing and miss. I think probably that's why he went with an opener on that. And speaking of that opener, Tyler Holton does give up a home run in the first inning. I mean, technically, I have him on the side of things that went wrong because, you start off the game down 1-0. But I'll be honest with you, I actually thought that this was the best he has looked in a while before. And that was not a good pitch. That was a changeup, middle, low, but middle of the plate changeup to one of the better home run hitters in baseball this year. Not going to go too terribly well, especially righty lefty, all that. So that pitch was not good. I'm not trying to justify that. However, I do think that he actually looked really good leading up to that, and the cutter especially was phenomenal. So hopefully that's a sign of things to come, believe it or not. Is kind of how I walk away from this outing. And then, like the offense on Saturday. We'll talk about that and talk about some individuals a little bit more in depth right after this. Got to talk to you today about our friends over at Game Time. Have you ever decided at the last possible minute that you need to head to a ball game with your friends and family? I know I do it all the time. Maybe it's a game day and you suddenly realize you want to be in the stands surrounded by 40,000 of your closest friends and Tigers fans like this weekend. That's exactly where Game Time can come in for you. It's the easiest way to grab last minute tickets without all of the stress that comes with it. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. Game Time makes it possible. Game Time makes buying tickets fast and simple. The prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to first pitch. And they've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and the lowest price guarantee to take the worry out of buying. Game Time is the official ticketing partner of Locked On MLB and makes it easier to get those last-minute tickets. It's awesome to browse the app and get excited for upcoming Major League Baseball games. Again, the Detroit Tigers that are in Baltimore after the off day, but will come back home later in the week, and you should use Game Time, just like I'm sure thousands of people did for Comerica Park this weekend. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Third and final segment of Locked On Tigers. Appreciate you all for tuning in as always. So talking about the offense on Saturday was obviously not very great. The offense really throughout the whole weekend was kind of up and down, inconsistent. I don't want to make it sound like Friday and Sunday were offensive masterclasses, although I did actually really like how they looked on Sunday. 8 base runners on Saturday should probably net you more than one run. They went 0 for 5 with RISP. But they've been really good with RISP all season. And look, Jameson Taillon has had kind of a roller coaster of a career since leaving Pittsburgh, but he's been pretty good this year, and he looked fantastic in this one. I also think that matchup-wise, that was kind of the game to lose, and this is not me making excuses. They should have done better, but Taillon is a righty that has done really well against lefties this season, and the Tigers are such a platoon-heavy team, and a team that obviously with AJ we've become accustomed to, right? Like he is going to play the matchups as often as possible. So I think that really the writing was kind of on the wall. If there was a game that you were going to lose this weekend, it sure as heck wasn't going to be when Skubal was on the mound, and obviously Flaherty is your presumed number 2. Certainly your healthy number 2 right now. So if there was a game, it was going to be the bullpen game where you went against Taillon. Like that was just kind of always going to be the hardest matchup of the weekend. And the Cubs have great back of the end bullpen arms as well. A lot of sub-2 ERAs that throw over 100 miles an hour back there. Last thing, I do want to, he had a good day on Sunday. 2 for 4 with 2 RBI. We'll gladly take that. He looked a lot better. So I want to be as transparent as possible and not let recency bias steer us away from perhaps difficult conversations. Riley Greene, before Sunday, went 0 for 8 with 6 strikeouts on the weekend. Just not seeing it super well. He did get completely screwed on Sunday as well. Ball that was down near his ankles and got called strike 3 on it. But the Tigers, I think, benefited a lot from the strike zone on Sunday. That was not a very good umpire performance that eventually led to a couple of ejections on the Cubs side of things. But alas, when it comes to Greene, like his numbers on the season are still good because when he does have good days, they are really good days. I just think I don't think he's actually seeing the ball still super well. I think he's still expanding the zone a lot. Evan Petzold wrote an article about how he's trying to address that rather Greene, and like how he's trying to get better about that. But because he hasn't been that his whole career. He was a really high walk rate guy last season, and that's one of the reasons that made him so effective. So if we could find that balance again, I think you could see him really take that next step that we've all been just begging for him to make. But as it stands right now and so far this season, it's just been a lot of, a couple of really good games, a couple of really poor games, and kind of flip-flopping back and forth. So we will see how he continues. But rough weekend until it wasn't, which has kind of been the story of his season. Jahmai Jones called up. Jahmai Jones, for those who are unaware, was the darling of Tiger spring training. He's the guy that everybody wanted to make the team out of camp, especially when Parker Meadows got hurt. He hit really well in spring training, did not make the team. They elected, again, eventually they found out Javi could play really good center field, so that kind of, prevented him from making the team out of camp. But he gets called up at the expense of Andy Ibanez, who is sent down on Friday to AAA. And of course, because it's the 2025 Tigers, Jahmai Jones homers not only in the first at-bat he had as a Tiger, in the first pitch he saw in a Tigers uniform, he sends it to left field in an awesome, awesome moment on Friday night. So what does this mean? I think that it means that Colt Keith is going to play third base, and not like every day. It's still going to be an AJ Hinch, platoon kind of mishmash there. But I think that he's going to play third base more than he has been, certainly. I also think Andy Ibanez will almost certainly be back at some point this season. I would imagine it won't be for a while, and they want to send him down to give him those consistent at-bats, obviously. However, I do think that for the time being, they're going to have no issue with Jones. And I think that Jahmai Jones will be kind of the left-handed pitcher platoon in corner outfield. I hope Parker Meadows plays every day, to be honest with you. The second half of last year, he hit lefties pretty well. He's I don't know. I think that should be the case, but we'll see how that plays out going forward, especially if Winfield Perez is not any better against left-handed pitching this year. That's been a huge frustration of mine, is like, this guy's a switch hitter, but he's almost like barely even counts as a switch hitter because he doesn't hit lefties well, like at all. At least certainly didn't last year in the major or minor leagues. So I think that this is kind of a safety valve option in that regard, where it's like, okay, if Perez is really only going to be a viable option against right-handed pitching, then we need another corner outfielder that can play against left-handed pitching and still guarantee that McKinstry can play somewhere in the infield if need be. So I think that it gives them that flexibility, although it does mean that third base will probably see more of McKinstry and a little bit more Colt Keith. Hopefully Matt Vierling is back sooner rather than later. Speaking of that, a lot of great transitions in this show. Just wow. Pat yourself on the back sometimes, Matt Vierling, it was reported by Evan Petzold of the Freep that he had I think the headline said best case scenario in terms of news received for Vierling. No structural damage, just inflammation. They gave him a shot to help the inflammation. He had a throwing program that he started at Comerica Park before the game on Sunday. So he's still, throwing, trying to get himself back into to game shape. He didn't miss too much time, actually, because he was in AAA before that. So hopefully this was just a blip, and it's actually not that big of a deal, because this team, as it stands right now, and then you add Vierling's production from last season at third base, and you still have, Colt Keith and Zach McKinstry then kind of shuffling around. Like, you're talking about a really deep lineup card. Also, speaking of injury situations, Alex Cobb made another rehab start. So the stuff didn't look bad, and the final numbers didn't look bad. Just looking at him on the mound and not looking at the ball out of his hand, it looked brutal. He looks like he is in serious pain literally every time he throws a baseball, man. That go check out Tigers minor league report. Always go check out and support Tigers minor league report. One of the best group of people and just platforms that this fan base has to offer. But they posted his outing. He went just over 2 innings, and it seriously looks like he's like having trouble moving or in serious pain after almost every pitch he threw. The update from coaches was that it didn't get worse. Okay. Well, it doesn't look great, and it didn't sound great to start with in his first rehab start. So I am losing faith every day that this dude is honestly ever going to pitch for the Detroit Tigers. He was borderline retired last year until the Tigers swooped in. I don't know. I hope I'm wrong because, again, stuff looks decent, and he has been really good and productive when he's been on the field over the last few years. But who knows what the future holds in that regard. What else? Quentin Berry, third base coach for the Cubbies, makes a huge blunder, honestly, on Friday that might have cost the Cubs the game. So shout out to Big Q there. Still helping the Tigers over a decade later. That was such a fan favorite. Everybody loved Quentin Berry back in the day, man. Cool. I know he was Milwaukee's first base coach for a while. I didn't get the memo that he was now the Cubs' third base coach, going, in division like that. But that's the dog. That's the dog forever. Shout out Quentin Berry, man. Last thing I want to do. We don't have any game to preview because the Tigers have an off day today as you listen to this. They play the Orioles in Baltimore after Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I want to play an old game that we used to play on this show fairly often. We're going to play, for all these longtime listeners, the OPS game. Okay, we're going to go through the OPS of everybody in the Tigers lineup on Sunday's game. Okay, 705, 775, 808, 998, but that's Winfield Perez. He has a very small sample size that we can even exclude that. 705, 775, 808, 815, 842, 712, 766, 775, 717. There was not a single player that entered the ball game, whether it was for pinch fielding or pinch hitting, etc. Pinch fielding. There was not a single person that played for the Tigers on Sunday, pinch hitting and defensive sub included, that had an OPS under 705. Not a single one. And the 705 is even Parker Meadows, who also has a very small sample size, and we expect to be higher than that. The lowest qualified is Javi at 717. There's not a glaring, this guy has an OPS over 900. There's not even a guy with an OPS over 850. Obviously, again, excluding Winfield Perez and his small sample size, right? But you now have a really good pitching staff with a really solid bullpen and an offense that is 1 through 9, at least giving you professional at-bats. There's no MVP candidate. There's nobody that's going to, run away and be in consideration for one of the best hitters in the American League or anything. But it's 9 professional hitters that I believe the average OPS in baseball right now is in the low 700s. There's a chance that all 9 of these guys are above league average hitters at the present moment. And that's a beautiful thing. There's a lot of concerns flying around out there within the fan base about the offense. I get it. It has taken a step back. We will talk about that a little bit more in depth tomorrow. I am not trying to tell you that you just should have no cause for concern and whatnot. And they are missing that high-end bat. You're hoping that Torkelson or Greene or Carpenter can maybe turn into that this season. But I think we also need to take a step back and kind of just realize this is a tricky 9 to navigate at the present moment. And that is why they have the best record in baseball. Thanks for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We, of course, will be back tomorrow discussing the week ahead and more. Peace and love. Going to therapy's dope. I'll catch y'all then, baby. Go Tigers.